Start the video. There we go.
There he is, my man.
Yeah, look at you.
You're ageless, coach. You're ageless.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Barbershop, barbershop.
I don't think you need Smitties anymore, do you?
Yeah, for
Get
the
that
culture,
goat. Get that
for
goat
the
touchdown.
culture. I go there, guys make should I make this larger? Or does it matter?
No, you're
This big.
fine. You're fine.
Okay. And you know how it is, man. Guys go there and wait 2 hours, or guys go there and make appointments and they're in and out and whatever. I just go and hope I can talk trash with the young boys. Hey,
That is good.
Hey, Brian, these cats think that the NBA started with Shaq. I mean, that's what I'm dealing with.
Oh, they must be young. Oh my goodness, coach. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
They don't know any
yeah,
better. One of those things that I truly miss, because as soon as I went to Penn State, I
yeah.
never went back to Smitty's because at Penn State they didn't have any barbers for us, so I taught myself how to cut my hair. So
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah. Hey,
man,
I
my
see
nose
all the
was already
scars.
bleeding.
I see all the scars from
Uh,
40 years ago.
Man, I used to hook up my high top fade. Are you kidding me? But
Oh yeah.
brother Chris, I know he I think he still goes there and he sometimes sees you there.
That's correct. Yeah, yeah, man. He's he's a good man. He really is. I really
Sarge,
enjoyed Chris.
man,
He's great.
that dude, he, you want to talk about somebody who put pops through it and came out on the other side, one of the most beautiful human beings when we didn't have a lot of hope for the boy.
Oh my, oh my.
Hey,
Yeah.
I want to start with something
Okay.
that just blew me away. This summer for my birthday, I got this beautiful gift of an ancestry DNA test, and I
Okay.
traced my ancestries back on both sides to the early 1500s. But
Wow.
but then I find out that you are part of the Quander family.
Yes, sir. My mother was a quander.
So for anybody who
Yeah.
doesn't know, they are the oldest, first documented Black family from Ghana.
That's right. A Krog
Uh,
Ghana. Yes.
I think his name was Aquander maybe that was his last name, and it became Quando, and
Yes.
he was taken from Ghana, brought to the States,
Yes.
and then his family essentially Virginia. They were slaves. They were slaves of George and Martha Washington, and got um, when George in his will, he freed,
Right.
I think maybe Nancy was her name. But I went back and looked. Man, I knew you were royalty. I knew you were royalty.
And hey, yeah, the story, and I appreciate you bringing it up because obviously, like your great family, we're all proud of our ancestral roots, and more people, thank goodness, are doing that deep dive with their respective families. And we have some great historians in our family. Most currently, my nephew Vincent Brooks. I mean, he just it's a passion for him. He's doing more and more research for the Lewis side of the family. His mother, Naomi Lewis Brooks, was my oldest sister, and she was a great historian. And now that she's passed, he has taken on the mantle, and he's done the Quander family extensively. That always was pretty well documented, as you referenced. Like, we're planning for our 99th consecutive Quander family reunion, man. I mean, I mean
Yeah, I saw
that's
that.
impressive.
Yeah, I saw that. And I just thought that was amazing. And one of the reasons I was so motivated is because the Cotilda, there's a documentary about the Cotilda, which was the last slave ship to hit the States illegally. It was a
Right.
bet. They ended up in Mississippi,
Uh-huh.
and there's some Allens associated with
Oh,
that. So
okay.
I haven't proven yet, but I'm thinking, somewhere somebody left the window open back in the day. So I'm going to be doing some more digging on that. But right now, you have the title, so I just wanted to like give a tip of the cap that I never knew that about you, and I just think it's so important, especially as an American culture. We do not dig as deep with those who come before us as much as we should. I think we're doing a better
Yes.
job of it now, But
Yes.
yeah, that kind of blew me away. So you end up
Well, let me
go ahead.
let me make one little anecdote that I think you'll enjoy. I know you'll enjoy,
Yep.
and hopefully the audience will as well. Okay, it's just and it speaks to how sports and the world is such a small relational type of existence. All right, so yes, the Quanah family came from Ghana, the capital, Accra. My family and I went over in 2016, and the name was Amaquando in Ghana, and then it was Americanized to Kwando, and then eventually Quander. However, so my years of coaching George Mason University women's basketball. You remember those years, right? I think you came in as a 25-year-old sophomore in high school.
We'll
No, I
get to
had to get
that.
you.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. But anyway, so George Mason, as you knew, because Troy went there, was a great baseball player for George Mason University. So they won, and they, to my knowledge, are still the last East Coast champion, NCAA champion in track and field. I mean, it's always, Arkansas or LSU
Tennessee,
or
yeah.
whatever, okay? So the brothers from Africa and those from the Caribbean primarily were the athletes on the track and field team. So I go in the training room one day, just, I never met a stranger just like you. I think we're related. I really do. I've told, I don't tell too many people that, but the personality. So I go in the locker room, training room, and I see these two brothers who I had seen perform on the track, and I said, "Hey, how you guys doing? When's your next whatever?" And I said, "So where are you from?" And they said, "We're from Ghana." I said, "Oh, really? My family's from Ghana. The Kwander family." And they said, "Oh, I know the Kwanders. They live down the street from me in Accra."
Wow.
It was great, man. It was like,
Man,
whoa,
that
yeah.
that is
So
that man, that's so awesome. That
yeah,
I think I just it's so interesting to me now. And when our history is being attacked, for me, our history is something that I'm very proud of because we were right there in the trenches building the country like everybody else. Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
So you grew up in seminary, which most people
Yes.
know is Alexandria, but you're very distinctive about calling it seminary.
You got that right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm in Ghana and they said, "Where are you from, boy?" I said, "I'm from seminary." And then I explained, yes. Um, the history of our family and the community of seminary actually is being highlighted, if you will, at this point, Brian. And without getting into all the weeds, we're very grateful and fortunate that the Virginia Theological Seminary, one of the great educational institutions for the last 200 years, was helped to be built. It was helped built by slaves and those people of color, including my grandfather, James Lewis Sr. I'm James Lewis III. My father was James Lewis Jr. So he worked there. My grandfather worked there, as did a lot of other families, the Caseys, the Wanzers, the Johnsons, and whatever, who primarily lived within walking distance of the Virginia Theological Seminary, or Quaker Lane, King Street. Those who know the school formerly known as T.C. Williams High School, it's now Alexandria City High School, but that's another block away from the Virginia Theological Seminary. Bottom line is, they started a reparations program in 2019 for families uh, whose ancestors worked and helped to build uh, that Virginia Theological Seminary. So the name seminary, obviously this is all new, but the name and culture of seminary, a small black pocket against segregated Alexandria. Earl Lloyd, my mentor, used to always say, "Hey, over in Delray, close to George Washington High School, back in the day when that was the white high school, and our high school, Parker Gray, was right across the tracks. But Mount Vernon Avenue is where George Washington High School was." And Earl Lloyd used to say, and other guys too, "Hey, if you're walking down the street on Mount Vernon Avenue, you better have a bucket and a mop in your hands." That's a that was the really, it was the
Right.
reality.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there were probably 6 different pockets of residential areas where African Americans lived in Alexandria. Alexandria wasn't a big city, you know. We're 5 miles from DC, as you know, but it
Right.
was, you know, back then it was like, you know, my goodness, where are we? So, but we loved it. So, in terms of having the empowerment and the richness of our community, and seminary again is on the western side of Alexandria, and man, it's home. It is home for my grandfather, my father, and myself. Yes.
Right. And one of the things that I felt, because I actually went back and listened to you talking to Julian Brown, one of my good friends, about it, is it
Mhm.
was Black excellence. And
It was.
it was Black,
Yes.
like with the teach, it sounded like the teachers that you were surrounded by, the adults around you,
Yes.
really molded you.
Yes, absolutely. And again, we're all proud, and you know, a lot of people helped all of us. And but I'll speak quickly on my particular family. My mother was the first May Queen at Parker Gray, which put her in a class of distinction in terms of academics and beauty and all that. And so and my dad finished third grade, but my father was brilliant. I use that word, you know, very generously, because the meticulous with which he approached everything in his life, including the ledgers, where he did all of uh, the funding and recording of the funds for John L. Lewis for 35 years, the United Mine Workers former president. So they raised 5 children, 4 of whom were my older sisters. And just to get right to it, my oldest sister Naomi, who I referenced, who was the real player of basketball in our family, she still holds the record for the old Parker Gray, you know, girls team in 1950. Scored 28. I don't think you ever scored 28 at all when you played for South Lakes, did you?
One
You
time,
28?
one
Huh?
time, one time.
One time.
Yeah.
All
That's
right, all
it.
right, enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I had so many good players around me. I didn't need to score that much.
Oh no, yeah,
At least,
right.
at least I didn't
Yeah.
think. But
I don't remember you making too many passes, Al. That's all I know. But
there
anyway,
were
my sister
times.
Naomi, the oldest, now has a school in Alexandria named for her, Naomi L. Brooks Elementary School, right there
Oh
on
man, I didn't know
Braddock
that.
Road. Yeah, yeah.
That's
When they
awesome.
changed, well, the city, to its credit, the city mayor and city council obviously uh, have created a process by which, and it's ongoing, that all of the Confederate named streets, Jefferson Davis Highway, Route 1, um, 3 streets per year will be changed to prominent African Americans or people of color from Alexandria. Okay, so, and likewise, the schools. All right, T.C. Williams was a 30-year superintendent segregationist in Alexandria. And so when Earl Lloyd, hope everybody listens because I'm jumping around a little bit, but when Earl Lloyd had the gym floor at the new T.C. Williams High School, named after him, he had some serious reservations about being affiliated with that name, T.C. Williams, because of the former
Right.
superintendent. And so now that name has changed. It's now Alexandria City High School.
Right.
And Maury, who was a Confederate general, elementary, was changed to Naomi Lewis Brooks Elementary School. I have a T-shirt. I should have worn it. Yeah.
Man, I love that, and congratulations. And like I, as an adult, I always think about why I connected with you so much. And one of the first things I figured out was, even I knew this at 14 when I met you and you started coaching me. You had a inherent, uncontrived respect for women because you had 4 sisters, and myself. I didn't learn to play basketball from my father. He played football and baseball. Their best friend, Cheryl, she got me in love with basketball at 6 or 7 years old because she could beat her husband, Ed, and my father and Horace consistently. And she coached the 7th grade team. And you may know the name Pam Gant, because Pam Gant was a backcourt mate of Kim Mulkey at Louisiana Tech.
Gotcha.
In fact, she's worth Googling because Pam Gant was a beast. And
Uh-huh.
that was the first basketball hero I had, was Pam
Wow.
Gant. I think it was called Washington Junior High School in Joliet, Illinois. Cheryl coached
Okay.
her. So just
Okay.
like Naomi was your influence, my influence was a female in basketball. So I
There
think
you
that was
go.
one of the connections I kind of felt with you. And my father was the same way. He was raised by his mom, so he just
Uh-huh.
had this different perspective. You know, both of you are very alpha males, but you have this inherent respect for women that I think is was very important and very impactful for me as a kid. So I just wanted to
Well,
acknowledge
well,
that.
that's great. Your level of intelligence and IQ, I mean, just has really developed. No,
Because I know, yeah, I was a dumb jock.
no. You're the best, Brian. You really are.
So
And
yeah, that's great that Naomi was your, she's the one that got you on the path, right?
yeah, and I had a great mom, great dad. But yeah, we were in a house. I was in a house with my father and five women, and the respect was there. Started, with how our father represented himself, and so my four sisters were extraordinary. They really were. So Naomi went to Virginia State, high above the Appomattox on his lofty hill. I was raised on Virginia State. Three of my sisters went there. My sister Janice, who you know real well, Christy Winters Scott, this mom, it went back after 33 years of teaching in Fairfax County Public Schools and got a doctorate at George Mason University and became a professor there. She now, in fact, I'll see her at the game tonight. South Lake's a big state game tonight.
Please, yeah,
Yeah,
please tell everybody I said hello. I have been watching Jordan from afar.
yeah.
I think it's cheating when you have the DNA that he does. I had some overweight baseball player genetics. My mom didn't play any sports, and Jordan has two of the goats of South Lake.
Hey, yes, I mean, yeah. I know he's my relative, but he really is special. He really is. This is back-to-back regional player of the year. You were regional player when you came through. So, and he's a junior. And he's about 6'7", man. So
Yeah, I'm
he
going to
can do
catch him.
it.
Troy actually saw him play last week, and I'm going
Okay.
to catch him by his senior year because I don't want to miss that. Having said I saw him play live before somebody stole him, and I'm a little salty because I saw Izzo real early on in his life,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking, well, my boys have no shot because he's the man.
Yeah, he's been at South Lakes 3 or 4 times himself.
Yeah,
So
no, I'm not
yeah,
saying he's
he's blessed.
going to
Yeah.
Michigan State. I'm just saying if it comes down to
Yeah.
Big Ten school, I don't like Penn State's chances.
I understand. Hey, man. Hey, I was down at Duke. We jump around. This is great. I'm gonna get off here in 30 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. But I was at Duke last week, Brian. You'll love this. Another just nugget of how blessings just continue to unfold. The first brother ever played basketball at Duke University is from Langston High School down in Danville, Virginia, right? All the schools were segregated, obviously, in the state. He
Right.
finished a year after me in high school in 1965. His name is Dr. PhD CB Claiborne. All right. So he was there at Duke by himself, if you will, because there was one other brother on the team for 1 year and he left. So CB graduated in 69. I came in as the first Black assistant coach at Duke any sport in 71, 2 years later. But our paths are so similar in that 3 other brothers and myself integrated West Virginia University basketball and the Southern Conference. And, it wasn't like we didn't have great teammates who were from whatever ethnicity, but the four of us there together really helped us to get through it, if you know what I mean. And CB was by himself, and I was always curious as to hearing different stories. My wife is a proud graduate of North Carolina Central University right there in Durham.
Yeah.
And, hey, you got to go across town, man. And that's what he did. But he apparently was told, the story goes that he actually had a cafeteria card from North Carolina Central because he wasn't comfortable with his time at Duke in interacting that way. Well, the story was inaccurate because there were 11 other students from his high school who were students at North Carolina Central. Okay, so, but it just speaks to how our backgrounds, yours, mine, where you are compared to Michael Jackson, and get back to Jordan. Jordan is compared to Grant because of the physical similarities and all that. Now we all know he's not Grant. There's only one Grant Hill, but he is a straight A student, which I mean, I don't know what Grant was, but obviously he could be president of the United States one day. Hopefully he'll be as rich as Grant when he
Yes.
moves on.
Yes.
But his style of play is really, really interesting in that he's humble and yet he's a killer. And not everyone, the barbershop the other day, this one, oh, your man, Teddy Carpenter. All right. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, you're Teddy Carpenter, for those who know, was a great athlete, football, basketball, whatever at South Lakes, and now one of the best comedians in the world.
no
And so
question.
he saw him play, and his concern to me, very respectfully, he said, Jim, Jordan can really play, but I wish he were in an environment that was a little tougher, and the guys were dogs and all that. And I don't think you suffered from, or Michael Jackson suffered from playing suburban ball, if you will. I mean, I'm from Alexandria, and the guys from DC got their butts kicked, when we played them.
Right.
Except Dave Bing, I guess, yeah.
Right. Well, just like, I mean, we all would go find the games.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. You always find the games in the best comp.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
from your time, because I know you guys used to go in there and play Dunbar guys and spin guard guys and all that, right?
That's right.
You were at, you were at Parker Gray, which was all black, and then your last year you transferred to Groveton because just your family just happened to move.
That's correct. That's correct. All the 5 miles from where we grew up is like, Jimmy left Parker Gray. And hey man, I just moved down the street.
Right. So, what kind of adjustment was that though? I mean, because like if you're an all black, go ahead.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say you were in an all black school and then you get dropped into this integrated school. What was that transition like for you?
Well, it was not without challenges. I'll be very candid, but on so many levels, because basketball had allowed me and other brothers to play pickup ball against whomever. Yeah, so where we couldn't play GW or Washington Lee or some of the other all-white schools in Northern Virginia. It's about a meritocracy. I mean, if you can play, you can play. And so I had great teammates at Parker Gray. I was at Parker Gray for 4 years. A lot of people really don't
you were like Parker 8th grade. You started there in 8th grade.
Yeah, 8th grade. Yeah. 4 years, and then one year and 10 games at that at Groveton. So there were some things that were a little not awkward, but comments were made. Like the assistant principal said, Jimmy, I know it's typical of men of your color to wear facial hair. And so I wish you would shave it off. And I tell her it's a true story, and so, I'm respectful, whatever. But he probably said that before he saw me play. I don't think he would have said it after.
Right. It's so funny you said that because when I lived in Texas before I moved to Ruston, and that was the same thing where I was getting my facial hair and the coach was trying to get me to shave it. And I went and told Pops, and he just said, that ain't happening.
Yeah, there you go.
And he was a laid back dude, but please don't step on my son's, ethnicity. So
that's right.
I get that. Okay. So not only do you integrate into Groveton, but then West Virginia, and there was an Earl Lloyd connection there. And maybe you should even explain Earl to people who don't know his greatness.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'll make it brief. I think because I haven't had a team to talk to in a while, then
I'm here, man. It's just you and me.
Okay. All right. The first African American to play in the NBA was Earl Lloyd from Parker Gray High School, our school in Alexandria, October 31st, 1950. And he was the player of the decade in the CIAA at West Virginia State College, right outside of Charleston, which is the capital of West Virginia. So he gets drafted by the local Washington team called the Capitals back then, and they folded after a few games, and he went into the military. He was drafted, comes back, and he joins the Syracuse Nationals. And so he was not only the first brother to play in a game, and I've got a quick anecdote on that too, but he was the first to win, along with Jim Tucker. They were the first brothers to win an NBA championship in 1955 with the Syracuse Nationals. All right.
Wow.
Okay. So Earl Lloyd is the first black head coach in the NBA. Just unbelievable. He's in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. So he tells the story, and we brought him up to Fordham. I tried to, when I coached it, you have to let people see living legends. All right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he tells a story that when he played his first home game in Washington, his father and his mother were there, Daisy Lloyd, all 5'6" of her. And so the team comes on the floor, and two guys behind them who didn't look like them. One of them said to the other, "Oh, look, they got an in on the team," and so his parents were unmovable, unshakable. And then the second question between these two fellows was, "I wonder if that end can play." So Earl's mother stood up, all 5'6" of her, turned around, looked him in the eye, and said, "Trust me, the end can play." That's a great song. And then Earl says, my mother had a PhD in conflict resolution.
Yeah. Man.
He was a mentor. Next to my father, he's the most significant male figure in my life. Helped me get my scholarship by telling his former teammate with the Syracuse Nationals, NBA champions, who now was the head coach of West Virginia University. His name was George King. That there's a guy in my hometown at my high school. And then he made a phone call and helped me get into coaching in 1969 at Tennessee State. So yeah,
So
the guy.
So you end up in Morgantown, and you had like 3 black teammates too, right?
That's correct. Yeah, one of whom was a high school All-American, Ron Fritz Williams from the state of West Virginia, who was the first guard taken in the 1968 draft by the San Francisco Warriors. He played 10 years in the league. Yeah,
Right.
Great player. Yeah.
Right. So I'm jumping around because I mean, your history is so crazy. But so then, you get injured. You didn't really get both your ACLs you'd blown out, so you're not touching the top of the square like I know you did. I've heard people say that. So you end up coaching, being you mentioned you were the first black assistant coach in the ACC, right? And the second,
yeah, in the
okay.
ACC.
Yeah.
George,
first at Duke.
First at Duke, yeah. George Raveling had been hired the year before at Maryland by Lefty Driesell. Lefty just passed last weekend.
Yeah.
So yeah, George played at Villanova, and then the teams in the South were beginning to not only recruit more student athletes. Perry Wallace broke the color barrier in the SEC, and he was from Pearl High School, right down the street in Nashville, where obviously Vanderbilt, where he played. So and then the staffing began to change, and now, hey, it's a beautiful thing to watch.
Yeah, when you started Duke coaching, do you know that because I believe that there are dudes just put on earth to be coaches. You, of course, my teammate Tom Hovass, who now coaches Japan's national team, and Troy, my brother, like he's put on earth to be a coach. So did you know like that was your calling, or did it grow on you?
I was never one-dimensional in my life. So
Facts.
Okay. No, I mean, God orders your steps, Brian, as you well know. And looking back as you do when you get your age, you realize that there are certain influences on a positive level. And all of my coaches at Parker Gray, at Groveton, at West Virginia, 2 coaches there, George King and then Bucky Waters, who became the Duke coach, who hired me at Duke, and Earl Lloyd, who was a coach. I mean, these are great role models. And so I had a tape recorder when I'm 12 years old, and my father saying, "Well, Jimmy, what are you going to do when you grow up?" I said, "Well, I want to be in the NBA." So that dream of being a pro player was never realized, but I became a pro coach. And so in the process of learning the craft, I was around some great players like we all are. The freshman team that I was introduced to as a coach in 1969 at Tennessee State had a center who was in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. His name is Ed Too Tall Jones. He was the center of my freshman team.
Man,
I'm 21. He's like 22. No.
Yeah, he was the man, and he obviously chose the right sport, but I'm sure you loved having him in the paint.
Absolutely. And we went to the varsity, went to the national championship game. I'm like, man, this coaching thing is pretty cool. Yeah, we lost to Philadelphia Textiles in the national championship game.
Yeah,
and 2 guys that were pros now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We
Yeah,
had two NBA guys on our varsity at Tennessee State. Ted Hound Dog McLean from that same Pearl High School that spawned uh, shucks, the Vanderbilt player, Perry Wallace,
right.
who broke the color barrier in the SEC, and then Lloyd Neal, who was Bill Walton's backup on their 77 championship team in Portland. But because Walton was hurt so much, Lloyd was the man, when
Right.
Walton was in there. So, and the next year, Chuck Robinson comes in. Hello.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to get the history of you because when you hear so often, why can't we move past history and what happened? But I mean, you were like a trailblazer in so many ways, and you're 70 young, so
77. I'm
you're
proud of it. All right.
proud
Say it.
77 years old. So like I have a hard time when we don't want to talk about history because a lot of this population kind of change things for the better. So
That's right.
you end up. I'm sure everybody wants to hear about how you got to South Lakes. I think it had to do with Coach Felton, or well, he was a coach, but Principal George Felton.
Yes.
The staff at Tulane was asked to seek uh, other
We got fired. Yeah.
and you happen to have a meal with George. Is that how you got to
That's
help?
right. Right. Here I am. My wife and I moved to New Orleans. We were there 5 years. Still have great friends there. One of the great players in his family is our daughter's godparents. My point is, so after 5 years there, they changed staffs. I was working for Roy Danforth, who had taken Syracuse to the 75 Final Four. So we knew we didn't want to live in New Orleans for the rest of our lives, for various reasons.
Right.
And we have these two little kids, Jennifer and Chris. And so I came home looking for a job and, interviewing here, interviewing there. And I'm in a restaurant one night and Mr. Felton, George Felton, who again was at Luther Jackson High School in Fairfax County as the basketball coach. And we were at his rival school, Parker Gray. So we knew each other. He knew my family and all that. So
Right.
he was looking for a new coach because Doug Krupper had started the program at South Lakes, and he was the new principal. He was only 2 years old, I guess, South Lakes High School. So I didn't know you were coming, but more crazy than that, I didn't know Michael Jackson was
That's
already
what I was
there.
gonna say. So
True story, man.
you get this job and you probably like, I know the money's not right, but I'm a coach, and then you're gifted this beautiful example of point guardness and shoot a scorer. He's a scorer,
Oh,
right?
yes.
What was your first impression when you saw him play?
I was like, man, I need a raise. No, he was remarkable. And all the stories you hear about him scoring 28 points in 6.5 minutes of the last fourth quarter without a 3-point shot. They're true. I mean, he really, John Thompson didn't make too many mistakes on recruiting. So,
especially somebody who's going to give the keys to his program too.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, great competitor, great student, great entrepreneur. His whole story is remarkable. And he wore number 32. I think we retired it after he left, and then somebody, you were there. That's see, people don't understand. I don't know how that came about. I'm serious. So you come in as a sophomore with a resume.
Well, hold on. Let's back up for a second. Okay, so because you talked about earlier how you put in these places, right? So I'm in Houston, Texas, playing 3 sports, and the 2 days in the heat of football in August was kind of like I was waffling, but it was really basketball that I thought I was going to drop because I thought I was better at the other 2. And then Pops gets this transfer out of the blue, summer going into my sophomore year, and he says to me, and we kind of had some issues as I was leaving, dealing with baseball. Beside the point, so I was kind of he said, I want you to get, because he didn't make a lot of demands of me, but he said, I want you to get a letter of recommendation. So I didn't want to do it because in my mind, it would be bragging, number one.
Right.
But I think in hindsight, he was just trying to show me you got to give yourself every opportunity. Now, from your perspective, and you can share that, like, you must have said, what in the hell is this letter recommended? This boy can't play. You must have thought that, right?
No, I knew you from good stock. I mean that all, yeah, because how many young people uh, don't have the guidance or recommendation to do something like that, or they're not told by their parents. And everyone has a different path and a different methodology and stuff. But that told me that you had a level of maturity, a level of responsibility, and a level of parental involvement. And boy, did I learn just the extent of your
Well,
parental involvement, because your father and mother really, Toby, just helped our program. I was only there for 3 years, um, and I was fortunate to coach you for 2, and Vince Howard for 3. And Vince Howard's our big center, as you well know, he's like your brother. But they opened your house, their house, and Vincent lived with them. Is that an illegal thing? No.
no. So what? Yeah. So what
Yeah,
happened was, his family was moving to Connecticut, and
yeah.
Pops, his wheelhouse, his lane was just molding young minds. So
Yes.
when Vince didn't want to leave his senior year, so Pops
Yeah.
had to legally adopt him for him to be able to stay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he knew I was fine with it because I kind of roll with everything, having this new person
Yeah.
in the house who's older than me. Um,
Uh-huh.
and Vince would probably tell you it was very crucial for his development. But
Yeah.
and that was another thing. Like, first I moved there, and then he puts me in your basketball camp. That's how I met you. And then the first thing that happened was I meet Mark Seneca. And Mark
Oh. Oh.
Seneca was a better basketball player than I was when I moved to Reston. I was probably a better athlete, natural
Uh-huh.
athlete, but as far as a
Yeah.
basketball player,
Yeah.
and as competitive as I was very humble, which again Pops taught me, and he
Yeah.
always taught me there'd be somebody better than you. And Mark and I, like, I would put him as, behind you and Wendell, the second most influential person to my development and getting a scholarship, because we used to go to Newbridge Court because that was right in his neighborhood, and that's how
Yeah.
Newbridge grew. And then it got so popular we had to move over to Twin Branches because it just got too small, right?
Yeah.
But Mark
Yeah.
was a huge influence because I had never seen anybody like him, like that could
Yeah.
score, shoot with both hands.
That's
And
right.
I mean, he was trouble. He was that
Yeah.
man. And so
Yes.
then when I show up in the summer league, who are they going to guard? Like
Uh-huh.
I love playing with him. I love playing against him during the off
Yeah.
season because he made me a better player. And then I
Yeah.
meet Casey Veach, and Casey Veach is kind of the guy I'm like, and he was best friends with Michael. He was his backcourt mate. And
Right.
that summer is when I said, all right, I'm dropping football. I'm going to, because Coach Pete
Okay.
Jules was sending Willie Page to try to get me to come out for football. But I'm like, hey, Michael Jackson just graduated. I had met Michael, and this is a
Uh-huh.
basketball school. And I'm just getting into the whole girl crazy thing. And all the girls like the basketball players. I'm like, football, yeah, you can have it. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
with the air conditioning and the tank top and the shorts. I'm going with that. And
There you go.
so
Yeah.
between Mark Seneca, Casey Beach, and then Steve Beasy and Vince,
Yeah.
I had
Oh.
these great role models. And I think that was also a bit of thing with South Lakes, was there's a lot of mentorship, because Michael, he helped me crack the code. Like, he didn't bug me a lot, but he would just check in on me and say, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. And I was very coachable. So
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
really important. So when you got that letter, I appreciate you saying that, because I know I was embarrassed to give it to you.
No. No, no, really. I mean, South Lakes, just as I spoke of Parker Gray being a special place, uh, because it was an all-black school, it was about black excellence. The Alexandria African American Hall of Fame was created in 2012, and there are about 75 members now from all disciplines. My brother-in-law is a retired general, and these are all graduates, doctors and judges and basketball people and Earl Lloyd and all that. But South Lakes had as you well know, had the uniqueness of being a model community, planned community. I think Michael and his family, I know they were from Washington, D.C. as was Danny Scott, your teammate, and Jerome, who now has this phenom. So
And it
yeah,
was all
it's
every social economic. I mean, it was such a
that's
grand
right.
experiment that worked. Like
That's right.
that's what made it
Absolutely.
special. So I, I'm, like I don't. I know I had to work to like I'm the sophomore. I'm trying out. I'm hoping I make varsity, and tryouts happen, and when you would tell everybody who made it and who didn't make it, you say to me, "BA, Coach Bird wants you on JV," and you have a pregnant pause. Like I'm willing to accept it. I mean,
Yeah.
and then you say, "But I want you on varsity." Like,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
again, I think was part of the magic of how you brought out the best of me is you coached me like I was raised. Like you and Pop have
yeah.
a lot of similarities, and
Huh. Yeah.
like that kind of scampiness of making me think I'm going to JV. That
Yeah.
that was kind of him too. And did you have like with those guys like Steve and Vince like? Did you have conversations with them to watch over me or anything like that, or they just did that naturally?
No, no. Again, looking back, I don't remember all the particulars, but I think so much was really organic about what I remember those 3 years. I mean, certainly we had structure, we had plans, and there were goals that we all had. But the people, people always ask that question. What do you miss about coaching? You miss the relationships,
Yeah,
and I'm not saying it was a utopia of just the finest,
right.
young men that ever walked the face of the earth, because we do know you. And so that hurts the equation right there. You have one who is a little
Well,
shaky.
I tell you what. So I didn't, the evil genius that he was, that school, Coach Norm Pache, who wrote that letter of recommendation. My high school was big there, and there was four. It was a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior team. I was
Okay.
I was the only spot in the program. You know,
Okay.
so
Okay.
when Pop, and that was kind of how it was all the way up until I moved to South Lakes, and it
Yeah.
was very intentional by him because he just
Uh-huh.
didn't want me to be that anymore.
Yeah.
So he looked at three schools. He wanted to see the most diverse schools, and he kind of
Yes.
wanted basketball schools. So he narrowed it down to Herndon, TC Williams, and South Lakes.
Uh-huh.
And,
Wow.
yeah, and so
Yeah.
he said he thought Herndon was a little too country. Shout out to all my Herndon friends.
Yeah.
DC might have been a little too ethnic, and South Lakes was just right there in the middle. And,
Uh-huh.
and that's how I ended up at South Lakes. And
Yeah.
I never had a black coach ever. And then to have two, and like
Yeah.
two just, perfect role models for a young black kid to have, like these your father figures, but you guys are young. You're in your 30s, I think, when you were coaching me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that like it was like I got dropped into this utopia because I had these and I'm in this basketball school, and I don't know if you remember, like when we played in the districts, we were playing Langley, and like I was just, like I feel like my whole high school career was I was Forrest Gump. Like I just, like he just gets dropped in these situations with these awesome people. So I get
Yeah.
dropped in and have Michael mentoring me, and Casey befriend me, and Steve and Vince kind of like they took me out and showed me that you could be the life of the party and not drink. I thought that was huge for me to in high
Yeah.
school when you can go either
Right.
way.
Yeah.
Vince was the life of the party, so I never felt pressure after that. And
Yeah.
the other thing was just, like to have so we were playing Langley, and your pregame speech, you talked about we have a short tradition, but we have a respectable tradition. And you made us put our heads down. Do you remember this?
Go
You made us
ahead.
put our heads down after you finished speaking, and it was quiet for about 20 seconds. And then Queens, We Are the Champions started playing. And I was like, oh, I mean, you talk about some dudes ready to go to war. That
Yes.
Langley was good. And
Yeah.
I think they beat us during the regular season. So
Uh-huh.
we had to step it up. And the big takeaway from that game, which may surprise you, because was when Danny Scott, I think Mark Galliani was their scorer, and Danny Scott essentially lived in his jockstrap the whole.
Oh yeah.
You remember that? You told him, you said, Danny, I don't want you leaving him. And Danny, it was the most wonderful thing like I was offensive minded, obviously. But when I watched it, and every time you called a timeout, Danny would come to the bench and you could tell he didn't have anything. He needed that timeout.
Yes.
Mark Galliani wasn't doing anything because Danny was. So from that moment on, like I was good at getting steals. But when I got to
Yeah.
college and I had to guard guys like Tom Garrick and Mark Macon, I was
Uh-huh.
channeling Danny because I said, if that dude can give that kind of effort
Hey.
in high school, I can give that effort in college. And that kept me on the court.
Sure.
Like, so as much as I can, like I love to give Danny love because that was the most impressive. I mean, Steve was doing his thing, Robert Allen. I
Right.
mean, they were magical dudes.
Oh, Robert Allen. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that dude was I loved his game. I love Steve's game. And I was so lucky to just like learn at their feet, just
Yes.
how
Yeah.
to be a winner. But Danny
Yeah.
was my MVP when we won that district.
I remember that. I do. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and just how marvelous it is for, two people who came together 40 some years ago and can reflect on the relationships and the circumstances. Again, I mean, sports is such a beautiful thing to be
Yeah.
able to hang your emotions on and know, particularly in team sports, that you did this with other people with a singular goal. And I respect golfers because did you know I'm on the senior PGA tour now? I think
I didn't, but
yeah.
I know
Yeah.
every time
Yeah.
I seem to talk to you, you have either just played or going to play. So I know what your life
Well,
is now.
yeah, no, I
And, and,
wish
and
I
I,
could.
I am not mad at you.
No, but individual sports people are fabulous with their level of discipline, obviously. But when you have a group dynamic where there's a give and take and respect for others across the board in terms of experience level or abilities or certain roles, and Danny is a perfect example. That's so key because we had enough people that could do other things, and for him to accept that role and then flourish in it, I mean that's a
That was
great
like the
memory.
ultimate team sacrifice. I am not going to
Yeah,
think about scoring. I'm going to lock up their best scorer, and I'm going like he was Galliani was so frustrated, and Danny. I mean, you talk about some heart. I mean, he's a military guy, so that. But I tell people, and in fact, when I was on the basketball staff at Penn State, Mark Macon was on the staff at Temple, and he
okay.
pulled me aside, and he said he used to study me guarding him,
Oh my.
which was the ultimate compliment. And I said, "Hey,
Yes,
man, I had a teammate in high school. His name was Danny Scott. That's where I got it from."
there
And
you go.
he was
There you
like,
go.
"Wow." He goes, so that yeah. So
Yeah.
Jerome was a beast, but Uncle Danny was a beast too, man. I love that dude. And so then I don't want to even say you break my heart because this is another thing where you decide you're going to go coach. George Mason is going to have a women's team. And to me, yes, I hated that you were leaving, but I was going to get Wendell. And for me, intuitively, I said, this man has so much respect for the women's game. He's going to go be a head coach at George Mason. So while I hated to see you go, I understood it and I respected it because that told me you had just as much respect for the women's game as you did for the men's.
And I knew that, again, everything was in order and you guys were in great hands. I mean, I didn't make the decision, obviously, Mr. Felton did, but I mean, who else but Wendell Bird? I mean, just the continuity and now I think the gym, now I know the gym is named after him. And just so no, it is remarkable, Brian, that these experiences are so vividly in our minds and in our spirits and in our hearts. And so your father would say, God rest his soul, your father would say, as he said to me on a lower level one time, said, how can you, with all these brothers, lose to the team with some white guy?
Yes, he only spoke truths.
Oh
Sometimes
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
heavy-handed, but you would
So,
always laugh.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
Oh,
on a micro level, and hopefully it'll change this year because we want nothing more than a state championship banner to
right,
hang in the
right.
Windleburg Gymnasium. But the
Oh,
talent has come and gone. Joey Beard and on and on and on.
yeah, you
And
just
that's the
reminded
one
me.
piece that still remains, and it'll happen. Yeah, state
Yeah, what
championship.
you just reminded me. You were talking about how he took off because he took in Anthony Fuller too that year. So we went.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so and I know he was getting on you about, hey man, how come I can't get any tickets? I
Yeah,
got
I
a $100 a week phone bill or food bill, and they
know.
destroy my fridge. Hey, can you hook a brother up with some tickets? Like to the day
Yeah,
he died, he was always getting on you two about that. And
absolutely.
well, you mentioned like when you said Coach Bird wants you on JV, but I want you on varsity, and you said I was going to be number 32. Was that conscious or was that
Well, okay, so obviously you got that number, that jersey number. Michael Jordan,
like
Michael Jackson had worn it, and no one before him because he
he was the
was the
first?
first at the school. I'm not sure how that went down, Brian. I'd like to say that, and obviously you were gifted and talented. You
I was
guys
no
were
Michael.
different. Well,
Yeah,
I mean, but you were different in your roles and your abilities and all that. So, but maybe there was some level. I would think that there was some level of continuity. Like Jim Brown wearing 44 at Syracuse,
yeah,
and
right,
then Ernie Davis 44.
right.
On and on and on, where the number represents something special, a little more. Just as I said in New Orleans, just uh, um, oh, when you get a dozen donuts, they give you 13 in there. Lagniappe, there you go, a little more lagniappe. Yeah. See,
Ooh, I love that
I was in
word.
Paris 6 weeks ago, but 6 months ago, but I didn't use
Yes,
that word. So
and like my junior year, that the last year you coached me, you know, I really I keep saying Forrest Gump, but I wasn't aware of how you took my game to another level. And there was like, I don't know, maybe two or three games where, and the one I remember specifically, it was being televised on Wrestling Cable, and they were
right.
taking the ball. The opponent was taking the ball out on our end of the court, having to go full court. And
Uh-huh.
Buck Seneca and his long ass arms and his big ass hands tipped the inbound pass. And
Huh.
it came right to me. I spun, shot, scored. We win the game, and you picked me up, and you ran me all the way through the double doors of, of the gymnasium. And
Oh,
so, again, you may not remember that, but for, again, I think you just coached me like my father raised me. So
yeah,
you got out of any coach somehow. You didn't have to. You weren't pushing buttons. It was more. I just always wanted to please you, and so
yeah,
my junior year, I know like that's where I, turned the corner, but that was just the way you coached me and just made me believe that I could beat anybody or we could beat anybody. Um,
well, to that point, I hope that, and I feel that some of the gifts that I have are the gifts of being a connector. I think very
yep,
often coaches are connectors, all right? And
yep,
I see things that happen now, and I realize that it's still going on. It's the spirit that allows me to want to connect this person or help this person and all that. So, but one of the plays that I remember so vividly, we're playing at Woodson High School, and they always whoever they were. Well, Red Jenkins, he's got the Woodson guards. Like they're the only ones going to ever play. The guard position.
right.
Excellent. But it was a close game, and you and Vince were in a side pick and roll, and we lowered it a little bit, so it wasn't free throw line extended exclusively. And it speaks to, again, your development and how, you knew the circumstances and read them beautifully. So you came off maybe your sophomore year, you would have looked at the basket and didn't know that Big Vince was open, whatever. But you hit him right on the money, boom, and he scored, and we won the game. And so, those are the highs, and the lows are when you really are so sad that you're not going to be a part of that particular group anymore.
Right.
It was what it was, and the uniqueness of it, because of graduation, it will make the next team different. And not comparing, but just you want to hold on to those memories, and you miss the relationships. And the one thing I can honestly say, Brian, I said this 30 minutes ago, I see so many similarities in us. Maybe I didn't know myself when I was 14, when you showed up at age 14 or 15, but knowing how I was raised by quality parents that allowed me to be myself and to have confidence, because that's the big key.
Yeah.
Having confidence. You talking about being humble and all that. That's part of it too. The role models, the parents and the coaches and the teachers are such, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, such an important aspect of a young person's development. And I feel so happy that I can look back and, every time we see each other, it's like it was yesterday.
Yeah. We just pick up where we left off. Hey, one last story about number 32. So
okay.
I'm in Lakewood Ranch about a little over a month ago, and I'm going to watch some Penn State friends, their daughter's playing in a soccer tournament.
Huh.
And I walk into the gate and I see this tall, lanky brother. His back is turned to me. And I'm like, I think that's Grant. And I haven't seen Grant in a while.
Yeah.
And, Michael mentored Grant like he mentored me. So my relationship with Grant in high school was because I was like, well, if he's learning from the best, I just need to stay out of it and whatever. But Grant and I had a good relationship. So, and I looked to his left and his wife is there. And so I walked up and I just stood, he was talking to one of the coaches, and I walked up and I just stood there and just waited for him to turn and look.
I know what he said to you.
What'd he say?
Number 32.
He said, this is how he introduced me to his wife and the coach he was talking to. He said, BA went to South Lakes. He was number 32 before me. And I said, I was just keeping that number warm between you and Michael. But then the next thing out of his mouth was, and his dad used to beat me up on the basketball court, because Pops loved to tell the story of taking advantage, essentially hustling a 14-year-old Grant who had no strength, and he suckered him into spotting him 9 points to 10 and just knocked him down and threw in his little ugly dink shot and never played Grant again and just lived off of that. So Grant, that's how he introduced me. He was number 32 before me, and his dad used to beat me on the court. And number one, Pops would love that story, but I would never, if he was alive, I would never tell him that. I would have said, hey, I saw Grant. He didn't bring you up. Yeah, and it's great. Man. And it's great to see him just owning the world, killing it. And then he was so gracious with Troy. He kind of took Troy under his wing too. And, Troy had a really good high school career. They did in the regionals, and I only won one district with you, and I choked my junior, senior year. So, there was always this, respectful mentorship. And for a public school, I thought that was pretty magical.
Absolutely. There should be a massive reunion, Brian, and we could start it and let it snowball and, bring back, the Senecas and the Robert Allens and
Dave Hershey. I actually talked to BC this past summer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's in North Carolina.
I did a Zoom call last year with Casey Veach and his team. He coaches high school girls.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Good man. Good man. He's another one of those salt of the earth people that I just fortunately to to fall into my lap, and I
That's
must
right.
enjoy coaching them. So again, all right, so you go to George Mason, the women, and you start recruiting, and like I got a little beef with it because you start stealing out of my college backyard. Because I think one of your first superstars was Debbie Tannehill, right?
High school All-American, two-time national champ. Yeah, we made a
Out,
living in Pennsylvania, man.
Altoona High, man.
Yes.
I'm sure Coach Portland wasn't appreciating that, but it seemed like you had a little pipeline going there.
Yeah, her dad, well, the quick story is that Don Staley and she were the same class. Don's out of Dobbins High School in Philly. And so they both were being recruited by Penn State, but Don was number one and Debbie was next, So Debbie needed a confirmation from Penn State and they couldn't give it to her. And so we were able to slide in there and get her. And she ended up being not only a really solid player, but an excellent assistant and then associate head coach. We saw each other 2 weeks ago. They had the 50th anniversary of George Mason women's basketball, and there were about 50 former players and coaches there. So she's done really well. But now her dad had such a vested interest in helping to influence other players from that region, Pittsburgh, wherever Altoona played, because his daughter was playing there and then subsequently coaching. So yeah, it was a good run, 14 years, and I really enjoyed it a lot. And it was really a perfect timing thing because I was on the men's side for my first 10 years on the college level, 12 years, and so I enjoyed that. But our kids were so young, I needed to be at home more, and those 3 years at South Lakes was a perfect a resting place, if you will.
Right.
But I looked at again the possibilities. I wasn't a visionary that knew women's basketball was going to become what it has today. But I saw the combination of being at home, being back at a university, and not having the huge demands of travel that I experienced at Duke and Tulane. So.
Well, I didn't, and I wasn't worried about you transitioning to that side or having to change your coaching style because you weren't a yeller, like
Yeah.
you didn't. You again, another similarity to my father is like you had communication skills that could get the best out of people without, yelling or what's the word? I can't think of the word.
Cursing.
Coercing is the word I'm thinking
No,
of.
I'm saying cursing without
cursing. Yeah, no, and you didn't curse. No, you didn't curse. But yeah, and to have two very important people in my life, you and Tom Hovass, coaching women, and it's been fun to watch. I don't know if you saw him coaching women, Japan's women.
Oh, absolutely.
He was chopping up. They were chopping up everybody until they just got out athletic and out long by America.
Sure. Yeah.
Now he's doing the same thing with the men. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, he's the head coach of the men. They just beat China for the first time in 88 years.
Oh my, yes. I watched one of his practices after you made the connection for me. They were over at some high school in Georgetown, and I watched one of their practices. And
does the boy know what he's talking about? I mean, because he was special when we played together. I can't believe this dude that's doing all this stuff is the same guy I went to college with.
Hey, we all grow in between, yeah, man.
And he's a defensive coach. I'm like, how the hell are you teaching defense when you never pass the ball? And he said,
spell it. He didn't know how to spell it, right?
He said something very smart. He said, I coach defense like I hated to be guarded. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Man, it makes a lot of sense. So, all right. So then Mystics, the WNBA comes and you become the first head coach of the Mystics. Another historic thing that you've done that, I just don't think gets enough attention.
Well, again, having that dream of being a pro basketball player, again, the ACL injuries, whether I would have made it or not, but certainly the injuries prevented me from reaching my potential. But the opportunities that presented themselves with USA Basketball, I was fortunate to Renee Portland. You mentioned the Penn State coach. She and I were together for about 6 weeks as we were preparing for the Junior World Championships in Natal, Brazil, and we won the first gold medal that the U.S. had ever won in Junior World Championships. Had
Who's
great
some of your players
play.
on that
Oh,
team?
Tamika Catchings. Woo-hoo! Yeah, that's all you need to say, right? Yeah, yeah. And Lauren Jackson was
Oh,
playing. Yeah,
well, she's
so,
playing
but
for
anyway,
Australia though, wasn't she?
she did, yeah. But there's another kid. I said Lauren Jackson. That's wrong. There was a kid from Brazil.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah, what am I saying? Yeah, no, we beat Australia in the gold medal game with Lauren Jackson.
Oh,
Yeah,
got it.
don't confuse me with details, okay?
Fair
Yeah, but
enough.
we won 3 gold medals and 1 silver medal, Brian, with USA Basketball. And there's nothing, everyone has said, and it's so true. There's nothing like having, the gold medal placed around your neck representing your country. So being at that level, and we coached some uh, World University Games players who were, in college, and then we coached some pros. And so having a chance to be around the elite of the elite women's players gave me that I guess incentive that yeah, I'd like to try to go to that level. And it was perfect again, staying at home, new franchise in the WNBA. Wes Unseld was the general manager and all. And so that I was with 4 different teams. We came that close with the Indiana Fever when I was an assistant there with Catchings again. But Tarasi killed us, with a shot at the buzzer with Phoenix winning their championship. So,
Yes.
but it's all good. It's all good.
So
Yeah.
you were with the Sparks and the Fever. Sparks, you got to coach Candace, right?
Absolutely. My goodness.
That must have
Oh,
been just one of the best experiences you ever had to play with somebody that
yeah,
good.
really. And really, it was one of the reasons I did because, coaches are so obsessed, and I'm not that way, but when you have a chance, put yourself in a position where you have a chance to win a world championship. I knew with Candace on that team, and actually the rookie of the year was Nneka Ogwumike from Stanford.
Yeah, yeah.
So those were the two starting post players. Uh,
Who's
and we did
killing it
well. We
now
won the West.
broadcasting?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
You,
So
yeah, I just, me personally, my personality, I could never be a coach. So I just admire coaches and teachers. I would do it on an individual basis, but try to get 12 people moving in the same direction, that's just a special skill, to have. And, I'm sure you love the golfing. But like if somebody came along and said, "Hey, I want you coaching this WNBA team or something," I know you'd
nah,
want back out there.
nah, I'm good, man. I'm
You
good.
good?
Hey, my wife and I are going to go on a 17-day cruise, European cruise in about a month and a half. So now those
Uh,
days, I'm good. I'm good. No, it was 50 years of coaching, and I don't regret any of it except when we lost. But just the different levels and being able to hopefully make a positive impact on young people and all. But it was a wonderful balance and blend of again high school, college, pro, and USA Basketball, and couldn't have asked for more opportunities than that. And again, looking at again how I mentioned Earl Lloyd, but there were a lot of people that helped me along the way. And then I see how I was able to help people along the way. You mentioned Robert Allen. Just as Earl Lloyd made that call to Tennessee State and said, "Hey, I've got a good friend who wants to get into coaching," and he got me the job there as a freshman coach. I made one call to the same coach at Tennessee State, Ed Martin, and I said, "Coach, I got a guy up here at South Lakes High School named Robert Allen. I think he can really play now." He said, "Send him down." He took him sight unseen. I mean, those are the kind of things, man. You're
yeah,
talking about. Yeah, I mean that's
well,
that's
yeah,
that's not me. That's not Earl. That's God working there. So
yeah. Robert, I mean, to be 5'10", our leading rebounder, can shoot
yeah.
the s out of the ball,
Yeah.
take it to the cup. No, I feel very lucky, and like this is actually, I appreciate you taking the time with me, and this is actually the anniversary of the week Pops died, so I can't think of a better
Oh
person
my.
to be talking to and reminiscing about the good old days than you. So I appreciate the time. Obviously, I love you to death. Make sure you tell Karen and Chris and Jen I said hello. I'll tag them on this, but
Okay.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
very lucky to have been under your tutelage, man. And obviously, I always keep in touch, but I
Well,
wanted to give you your flowers publicly.
well, thank you. You know, I love you too, and I think it's prophetic. And this is the last thing that you mentioned, the date of your dad's passing, because I watched those episodes with you and he in the car. I mean, that's
You like them?
that was
I didn't know you
that was
saw them.
made for Hollywood, man. You guys should have, got a syndication with someone that would really just enjoy the relationship between father and son who are now that was at a mature level. It was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. And I talked to his closest brother Pat, who's a psychiatrist and psychologist, and this is like last week, and I just said, Pat, I miss him to death, but I just only laugh when I think about him. Like I feel lucky I had him
Yeah.
for 56 years, and I think doing those videos helped a lot because
Yes.
as close as we were, we would go years without talking. And
Uh-huh.
so
Huh.
in 2018, I said, this dude is a clown. And I think he needs to see. I wanted to put a mirror up to him and say,
Hey.
this is what we see. And the
Yes.
first one we did, because he rarely called. So I guess when I posted the first one where he's talking about how I was, conceived,
Yeah. I know.
yeah, I know. And so Toby was laughing on the couch because he wasn't even on Facebook. And Toby was on the couch snickering, and he said, "What are you laughing about?" And she said, "BA posted that thing you guys did." So the next
Yeah.
morning, I get a call, and it's him, and I'm like, "Oh, here we go." So I answer the phone, and he said, "BA." I said, "Yo, what's up?" He said, "Man, all these people have been telling me I should write a book, and you put all my shit up there for free. And I've contacted my lawyer and I'm suing you." But I could tell he was tickled because he'd never seen himself on video. He wasn't born at the video
Yeah.
age. And I wanted
Yeah.
him to see what we see. And it was a lot of fun to do. And, after he passed away, I started just uploading them to my YouTube channel. And it was so
Yeah.
therapeutic. There was like no tears shed. It was just
Yeah.
because he was just funny as hell. And my
Oh yeah.
uncle said, "Yeah, people focus too much on the loss, but what if he wasn't in your life?" So now
Right.
I have those things, and I'm glad that you enjoyed them. And then later on, when George Floyd happened, when he and I start talking about the things that have happened to us as Black
Right.
men in this country, and because we were so happy-go-lucky, I guess people assumed, and I'll take some of the responsibility because I don't say everything crappy that happens to me. Uh,
Right.
it really had an impact. I had so many people say I had no idea. Uh,
Huh.
and so, because we had already set a precedent that we're just a couple clowns having fun, but then when it was important to really discuss things,
Right.
we really felt that we owed it to the people in our lives to kind of share our lived experience. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad,
Beautiful.
I'm
Well,
glad you enjoyed that.
yeah, and I'm glad you're cherishing them now, and you always will. And I'll say goodbye by saying I will cherish this as well. I really will, Brian.
You're the man.
Yeah.
I love you,
Yeah. You're
brother.
the man.